Welcome to our channel, everyone. We're excited to share the thrilling continuation of a shy girl's journey, where she discovers her doctor is not just a skilled professional, but also a young millionaire who might just steal her heart. Remember that breathtaking moment at the end of the story? Yes, the scene where she awakens from surgery to find him by her side, confessing his deepest feelings. That was a turning point that left us all speechless. If you want to see how it all builds up to that unforgettable confession and how their feelings spark into something life-changing, make sure you listen to the entire story. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss another captivating tale. We'd also love to hear your thoughts. Comment below and let us know your personal opinions. And if you have suggestions on where else we can share our stories, we're all ears. Ava Green took a slow, shaky breath as she stood in the bustling hospital waiting room, her gaze drifting over rows of vacant chairs and the tired faces of other anxious patients. The sterile smell of disinfectant hung in the air, occasionally interrupted by the faint aroma of antiseptic soap. Overhead, fluorescent lights buzzed quietly, illuminating the stark walls and glossy floor. Ava pulled her cardigan tight across her chest, seeking any scrap of comfort she could muster. Her best friend Mia sat close by, offering a supportive hand on her shoulder and a gentle, reassuring smile. "It's just a routine breast screening," Mia reminded her. She spoke softly yet firmly, as though attempting to soothe a frightened child. Her eyes shone with care and understanding, and Ava was grateful for that. Still, it was easier said than done to banish the anxiety gnawing at her core. Ava's thoughts flicked back to the moment, a few months before, when she'd felt the small, unfamiliar lump under her skin. Panic had flared in her chest, a dreadful echo of memories she wished she could forget. The weight of her mother's battle with breast cancer loomed over her, returning like a phantom whenever Ava glanced in the mirror or even thought about doctors. She hadn't told Mia the entire story yet, hadn't found the courage to say the words out loud. She'd delayed this visit over and over, hoping the lump might somehow vanish on its own, but it hadn't. Now forced to confront the possibility of a terrible diagnosis, Ava felt her palms grow clammy. "But what if my doctor is a man?" Ava voiced the question in almost a whisper, eyes darting toward the door that led deeper into the hospital corridors. She could hear the steady beeping of machines, the whoosh of automated doors, and the subdued hum of muffled conversations, sounds that only served to heighten her nerves. Mia shot her a sympathetic look. "I promise, Ava, whoever examines you will have seen it all before. This is their job. They're here to help, not to judge or embarrass you." That logic might have comforted someone more confident, but to Ava, who had spent her entire life shrinking from attention, it felt like an insurmountable challenge. The mere thought of lying on an examination table, a stranger's gloved hands investigating a part of her body she scarcely allowed herself to think about, was excruciating. Just then, the nurse stepped into the waiting room, calling Ava's name. Her voice rang out calmly, cutting through the low hum of conversation. Mia gave Ava's hand a quick, encouraging squeeze before Ava reluctantly rose from her seat. Her legs trembled beneath her, and she forced herself to follow the nurse down the hallway. Every step felt like walking a plank over open water. She entered the examination room, heart pounding. The nurse pointed to the exam table in a crisp, businesslike manner, assuring Ava the doctor would arrive shortly. The door closed with a soft click, leaving Ava alone in the small, sterile space. Swallowing hard, she glanced at the overhead light reflecting off metal instruments. She was trying to mentally brace herself for an older physician or someone who might regard her with brisk detachment. When the door opened, though, Ava nearly forgot how to breathe. Instead of the expected seasoned doctor in his 50s or 60s, there stood Dr. Nicholas Hale, young, tall, and unbelievably self-assured. His dark hair was neatly trimmed, and his striking gray eyes flicked to her in a way that felt both professional and oddly warm all at once. Ava's cheeks blazed under his steady, unhurried gaze. The white coat he wore enhanced his broad shoulders and composed posture, making him appear even more in control of the room. An immediate wave of embarrassment washed over her, and she considered fleeing. But as if sensing her tension, he gave a small, kind smile. "Good afternoon, Ms. Green," he said, his voice smooth and measured. "I'm Dr. Hale. Ready for your screening?" She couldn't manage more than a nod, words lodged in her throat, Even that slight motion made her painfully aware of the tension gripping her neck. Dr. Hale, noticing her distress, gently guided her toward the exam table. He explained each step in a measured tone, outlining what the screening would entail, how long it would take, and what sensations she might experience. His calm professionalism steadied her, if only a fraction. Ava willed herself to lie down, trying not to quake with nervous energy. She instinctively pressed her arms to her sides, reluctant to expose herself in any capacity. Dr. Hale's gloved hand, cool and precise, made contact first with her shoulder, then moved carefully around the area he needed to examine. His touch wasn't invasive or rough. He was remarkably gentle, and that went a long way to soothe her initial alarm. "So far, so good," he said at intervals, speaking in a voice meant to calm. "If you're uncomfortable, let me know." Ava managed a muted murmur of acknowledgement, her cheeks flaming with embarrassment. If Mia could see her now, she'd probably tease Ava gently, reminding her that doctors do this every day. Ava inhaled slowly, trying to separate the medical necessity from her personal discomfort. Dr. Hale finished the initial exam and rolled back on his stool, entering notes into a computer. "I noticed something that we need to look at more closely," he said, though his tone remained as calm as ever. "It's a small lump, could be a fibroadenoma, very common, very often benign, but I want to run more tests to be certain." Her heart clenched. There it was, the dreaded word lump. Even if he followed it with benign, her worries raced ahead, unmoored by rational thinking. Her mother's memory loomed large, overshadowing any assurances. He must have seen fear flicker in her eyes because he cleared his throat softly. "I don't want you to be alarmed, Ms. Green. We'll do an ultrasound in 2 weeks to determine more. Please trust me when I say it's better to be absolutely sure." Nodding, Ava sat up and draped her arms protectively across her front, wishing away the wave of panic that threatened to overwhelm her. The stark overhead light, the metal tray of medical tools, and Dr. Hale's earnest expression all pressed in on her consciousness. She tried to steady herself with a breath. He handed her a slip of paper detailing the follow-up appointment. "Take this to the front desk before you leave. If you experience any changes or have questions, just call. You're not alone in this." Too tongue-tied to say much, Ava gave another small nod. She could hardly focus. Thoughts of her mother, the terror of recurrence, and the bizarre, tingling warmth she felt whenever she met Dr. Hale's eyes jostled for prominence in her mind. She could barely mumble a "thank you" as she hurried out the door, her legs shaky. Outside, the crisp autumn breeze felt like a blast of reality against Ava's cheeks. The scuttle of fallen leaves along the sidewalk made her pause, momentarily lost in memories. Both of her mother's kind smile and the painful hospital corridors that had once felt far too similar to these. She was reminded of how much she loathed that environment of controlled sterility. Yet her life now required her to confront it once more. Thinking a latte might calm her, Ava slipped into her favorite cafe near the bookstore where she worked. Aromas of coffee beans and fresh pastries greeted her as she stepped inside. The warm, cozy ambience and the hiss of the espresso machine usually soothed her, but today, an undercurrent of anxiety still pulsed through her veins. She scanned the seating area for a familiar face or an empty table. Her gaze landed abruptly on someone who made her breath snag. Dr. Nicholas Hale, no white coat this time, just a crisp shirt and well-fitted trousers, sat near a window, stirring a cup of coffee in a slow, distracted manner. For a split second, she contemplated fleeing before he could notice her. Her eyes flicked to the door. That might have been the sensible option, but it was already too late. He looked up, their eyes met, and recognition flashed across his expression. A small, polite grin curved his lips, and he gave a slight nod. "Oh, hello, Ms. Green," he greeted in a tone that mixed surprise with warmth. "Didn't expect to see you here." She stood frozen, clutching her purse strap as if it might anchor her. "Hello, Dr. Hale," she managed, hoping her nerves didn't show. He observed her for a moment, as though gauging her level of comfort. "You work around here?" "Yes," she said, gesturing vaguely toward the bookstore next door. "I'm there part-time." A flicker of genuine curiosity lit his eyes. "I see. Would you like to sit for a minute? I have a few minutes before I head back." Ava felt cornered, but also oddly touched by his invitation. She glanced at her watch, though she had a bit of time to spare. Sure, I guess." She lowered herself into the seat across from him, trying to regulate her breathing. He smiled, that same quietly confident expression she'd seen in the exam room. She stiffened, remembering how he'd discovered that lump so easily, how carefully his hands had moved. Warmth flooded her face again. She grasped the menu as a distraction, finally blurting, "I didn't expect to see you outside the hospital." He chuckled lightly. "Doctors do need coffee breaks too." His tone was disarmingly normal, which set her at ease. "If I'm honest, I'm a bit of a coffee addict. This place was recommended by a friend, and it's quickly become my favorite spot." She nodded, her nerves easing slightly. Somehow he managed to converse with her like an ordinary acquaintance, rather than a patient pinned under a clinical spotlight. They talked briefly about her bookstore job, her love of classic novels, and the satisfaction she found in matching readers with the perfect recommendation. Dr. Hale listened attentively, occasionally asking thoughtful questions or recalling a favorite author from his youth. Time slipped by so quickly that Ava nearly jumped when her phone's alarm buzzed, signaling the start of her shift. She stood quickly, anxious not to be late. "I should go," she said, fiddling with her phone. "I'll see you at your next appointment," he reminded her, but there was a softness in his voice. "And Ava, thank you for chatting with me." She departed feeling lighter, torn between curiosity and confusion over why her young, handsome doctor would be so interested in hearing her talk about books. Over the next 2 weeks, Ava alternated between fear and cautious optimism. Dr. Hale had suggested that lumps in young women were often benign, and logically, she understood the reassurance in those words. Yet logic struggled against the memory of her mother's final days. Days dominated by hospital corridors, whispered phone calls with specialists, and a quiet dread that never went away. When the day of her follow-up ultrasound arrived, Ava reported to the hospital with knotted nerves in her stomach. The room was bright, the equipment humming softly as Dr. Hale prepared the gel and probe. He glanced at her with that measured calm she was starting to recognize as part of his gentle approach. "This might feel cold," he warned, pressing the ultrasound probe lightly to her skin. She inhaled sharply as the cool gel touched her, trying to keep still. Dr. Hale focused on the screen, occasionally typing notes into her digital file. Each second felt like an hour to Ava, her eyes locked on his face, searching for any flicker of concern or alarm. At last, he turned to her with a slow exhale. "It looks consistent with a benign fibroadenoma," he explained, letting a small smile into his expression. "No signs of malignancy." Relief surged through her, so potent it made her eyes prickle with tears. She tried to blink away. Dr. Hale handed her a few tissues to wipe off the gel, and she could only manage a shaky, "Thank you." He went on to describe her options. Keep monitoring the lump or schedule a minimally invasive procedure to remove it. Ava, still dizzy with relief, told him she would think about it. All she wanted to do was leave that hospital and breathe in fresh air, unburdened by her worst nightmares. In her haste to stand from the exam table, Ava's shoelace caught on a metal step. She lurched forward with a small cry. Before she could crash onto the tile floor, Dr. Hale's arms were around her, strong and steady, preventing the fall. The warmth of his chest and the scent of his mild cologne stunned her more than the near mishap itself. Their eyes locked. For just a heartbeat, Ava felt every fiber of her body respond to his closeness. Her mind dizzy with gratitude and something more. She jerked away, mumbling apologies, face flaming with embarrassment. He released her gently, a concerned line furrowing his brow. "Are you hurt?" No, I'm fine," she stuttered, avoiding his gaze. "I'm just clumsy." He let out a small laugh, but with unmistakable softness. "I'm glad you're not hurt. Take care, Ava." She clutched the paperwork outlining her follow-up plans, barely meeting his eyes. With a rushed goodbye, she fled the exam room, heart pounding. As she walked down the corridor, she couldn't shake the memory of his arms bracing her, or the subdued warmth in his gaze. A week passed in a blur. Ava was torn between relief that her scare seemed to be just that, a scare, and the nagging realization that Dr. Nicholas Hale was no ordinary doctor. She didn't know precisely why she felt that way. Perhaps it was his unwavering calm, or maybe that small spark in his eyes whenever he looked at her. Unable to sleep one restless night, she found herself browsing news articles on her phone. Her thumb hovered over a headline mentioning Hale Medical Group, a rising powerhouse in private healthcare. The moment she read the name, a jolt of curiosity spurred her to tap the link. The article described an empire of hospitals and clinics, all under the guidance of the Hale family, who had turned their private company into a billion-dollar corporation. The youngest scion of that family, Dr. Nicholas Hale, was known not just for his wealth, but for his remarkable passion for patient care, often opting to work as a practicing physician rather than focusing on corporate boardrooms. Ava's eyes widened. Reading the piece felt surreal. There was a photo attached. Dr. Hale at a fundraiser for breast cancer research, wearing a tailored suit and a subtle, thoughtful smile that looked more serious than the casual one she'd seen at the cafe. The text lauded him as the kind-hearted heir, an individual whose skills as a surgeon and deep empathy for patients set him apart. Her face grew hot. He's a billionaire heir, she thought, though the rational part of her mind said it shouldn't matter. But she couldn't stop the swirl of inadequacy that followed. She worked part-time at a bookstore, spent most of her free time reading old novels, and seldom ventured outside her comfort zone. She imagined the circles Dr. Hale must move in: polished elites, charity galas, high-end business dinners. How could she possibly fit into that picture? From that moment on, Ava acted on a single impulse. She distanced herself from him. Even though Dr. Hale's office emailed her about scheduling the optional removal of the lump, she politely declined. She avoided any cafe where she might run into him. When his assistant called to follow up, Ava insisted she was perfectly healthy and needed no further appointments. Yet every call she dodged only heightened the ache in her chest. Some small part of her missed his calm voice, the comforting presence that had steadied her during her most anxious moments. Days turned into another week. Then the bookstore bells jingled one afternoon, and Ava looked up to see Dr. Hale entering. Her heart lurched painfully. She glanced around, hoping a coworker might intercept him, but no such luck. He zeroed in on her, stepping between shelves of new releases with determined strides. "Ava," he said, voice tight with concern, "why have you been avoiding my calls?" She swallowed, fiddling with the corner of a hardcover book. "I haven't been feeling the need for more tests," she replied, her tone stiff and formal. Dr. Hale's gaze flicked over her face. "You and I both know that's not the whole story." Ava hesitated, feeling corners of her composure begin to crack. The overhead lights highlighted Dr. Hale's furrowed brow, a quiet determination etched across his features. This was Nicholas Hale, a man she now knew could buy entire hospital chains, but still chose to personally treat patients and worry over a shy girl who avoided checkups. How could she explain the tangled mix of embarrassment and self-doubt churning inside her? She set down the book on the counter, inhaling as calmly as she could. "I found out about your family business," she said in a quiet voice. "The Hale Medical Group, the expansions, the philanthropic work, and your background." Nicholas nodded slowly as though confirming it. "And that made you decide not to schedule your follow-up?" Ava's grip tightened on the countertop. "We're different people. I don't fit into your world. I'll only end up embarrassing myself." He cut her off with a firm but quiet tone. "That's not for you to decide." She blinked, startled by how openly he contradicted her. Taking a step closer, he lowered his voice so only she could hear. "Did you think your background matters to me? Yes, I have wealth and a family enterprise, but that doesn't define who I am. The only thing that matters right now is why you're pushing me away." His words rekindled every emotion she tried to bury. Gratitude for the empathy he'd shown, the comfort of his calm presence, the flutter in her stomach whenever their eyes met, and the sense that somehow, despite their differences, he genuinely cared. Her mouth went dry. 1,000 thoughts swirled. Her mother's memory, her own insecurities, the fear of letting someone important slip into her life, only to lose them. Finally, the truth broke free in a trembling rush. "I was afraid." Nicholas exhaled, stepping even closer until only a few inches separated them. The bookstore's hum of soft music and customers turning pages seeming to recede. "Tell me," he encouraged gently. She hesitated, but his earnest expression coaxed an answer. "I'm afraid you'll realize I'm nothing special, or that my background is too ordinary. And if something did happen, if the lump turned out to be worse than expected, her voice faltered, images of her mother's final days flashing through her mind. I just didn't want to drag you into all that. For a moment, Nicholas looked pained, as though her words were physically striking him. Then, with unexpected tenderness, he reached out. The simple contact of his palm against her cheek sent waves of warmth and reassurance through her. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, each syllable calm and resolute. "You're not dragging me into anything I don't want to be part of. And as for your background, Ava, do you really think I care about how much money you have or what job you do?" His lips curved into a faint smile. "You're kind, thoughtful, courageous enough to face your fears, even if you think you're not. You share your love of books with a gleam in your eye. Why would I ever walk away from that?" Ava's heart thundered in her chest. She parted her lips to respond, but no sound emerged. Because in that moment, she realized there was a choice to be made. She could keep running, letting fear define her relationships, or she could step forward, tentative as it was, and let him in. At last, Ava managed to nod, eyes glistening. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice catching. "It's been an emotional few weeks. I think I made it more complicated by trying to handle everything on my own." He gave a slow, understanding nod, as though letting relief wash over him. "Let's talk about what's next. Your options, your concerns together. If you're ready, we can schedule that procedure." The sincerity in his voice unraveled her last threads of resistance. She relented, letting him guide her forward. True to his word, Nicholas and his team handled every detail. And though fear still flickered, Ava felt steadier with each conversation, each moment he spent patiently addressing her doubts. On the morning of her outpatient surgery, Mia joined her at the hospital. Her friend's grin practically radiated confidence, reassuring Ava that she'd made the right decision. Nicholas appeared shortly before the procedure, wearing scrubs and sporting a calm, resolute expression. A wave of comfort washed over Ava just seeing him. "You're in good hands," Mia teased with a wink, stepping aside to let Nicholas take Ava's hand. Ava had never felt quite so exposed as she did on the operating table, but Nicholas's presence was the last thing she remembered before slipping into anesthesia. She recalled his gentle whisper, "Breathe easy, Ava. You'll be fine, I promise." Then darkness claimed her. When she awakened, disoriented and groggy, the first thing she saw was the soft overhead light. Then Nicholas's face came into view, his hand already holding hers in a gentle grasp. Relief rushed through her, mingling with gratitude and something deeper she had no words for. "It went perfectly," he assured her in a hushed tone. "The lump was benign, just as we expected, and we were able to remove it without any complications." Tears of relief blurred her vision. She couldn't stop the trembling in her hands, though her heart soared with the final confirmation. Nicholas squeezed her fingers, as if silently reminding her she wasn't alone in this. In that haze of post-operative calm and swirling emotion, Ava found clarity she'd been missing. Her eyes fixed on Nicholas, chest tightening, but not from anxiety this time. Leaning closer, he brushed a stray hair off her forehead. Her heart fluttered at the kindness in his eyes, the quiet strength that radiated from him. He hesitated, his own voice subdued by whatever storm of feeling lurked beneath. "I've done my best to remain professional," he said softly, "but I can't pretend anymore. I'm not just worried about you as a doctor. I care about you, Ava, deeply." She exhaled, letting a tear slip down her cheek. "Nicholas," she began, searching for words and failing. Realizing that her gratitude, relief, and the tentative love that had been brewing inside her might only be fully conveyed in action, she carefully squeezed his hand. "I'm so grateful for everything. And I care about you too." A faint, tender smile dawned across his face. Ava felt a rush of warmth, not from fever or nerves, but the realization that sometimes what feels impossible can become real if we let go of fear. After a year, Ava sat in a sunny hospital lounge, flipping through the pages of a glossy pamphlet about early breast cancer detection. Now volunteering at the hospital's community outreach program, she felt a sense of purpose guiding worried women, just as Dr. Hale had once guided her. Nicholas appeared in the doorway, that same comforting smile on his lips. He took her hand, now with a familiarity that spoke of countless quiet nights shared over takeout and weekends spent laughing at each other's teasing remarks. Their gaze met, and Ava's heart felt full. If someone had told her, back in the days she cowered in the waiting room, that she would find both healing and love under these fluorescent lights, she would have balked. But life has a way of leading us to the most unexpected outcomes when we summon the courage to face our fears. She rose, accepting Nicholas's silent invitation to walk with him. As they strolled the corridors that once terrified her, Ava remembered how every terrifying possibility had drawn them together in trust, understanding, and something far stronger than either had anticipated. No matter how shy she was, no matter the differences that seemed to set them apart, this was the place their lives intersected. A shy girl seeking help, a young millionaire doctor yearning for purpose, and a love that blossomed precisely because both were willing to step beyond expectations. They paused near the lobby where a large sign read, "Community Wellness Week." Nicholas brushed his thumb over the back of her hand. Ready to help more people face their fears? Ava smiled, heart brimming with gratitude and devotion. "Yes," she answered simply, certain now that she belonged right here, by his side, offering empathy and hope to those who needed it most. And that, dear reader, is how a shy girl discovered her doctor was a young millionaire and fell in love. In a world where anxiety and uncertainty often swirl, sometimes the best prescription is courage, trust, and the realization that genuine compassion transcends any differences in status or wealth. With open hearts and open minds, love finds its way, even in the fluorescent corridors of a hospital, where new beginnings can be born in the most unexpected of places. In this next segment, we delve deeper into what happens after our shy heroine realizes her handsome doctor is part of a powerful medical empire. Will the weight of his family name cast a shadow over their budding relationship? Or will it give them the opportunity to bring hope to patients battling illnesses they both care about? As the hospital walls witness their evolving bond, the answers unfold in ways neither of them could have predicted. Don't stop now. Tune in and enjoy the full story to see how courage, vulnerability, and newfound confidence push them to risk their hearts. After all, a love built on compassion and shared dreams might just be powerful enough to overcome any obstacle. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to join our growing community of story enthusiasts. Comment below where else you'd love to hear these emotional tales, podcasts, audiobooks, or even live readings. Your feedback keeps us inspired